Am I the asshole for not bending over backwards for my parents in order to babysit my 18-year-old sister? My 32F parents and grandmothers are going on a week-long cruise starting on 8/31. They haven't mentioned anything about keeping tabs on my younger sister. Tonight, my mom texted me saying, "I really need for you to watch your sister." I told her that I'm going back to work 9/2 and will be gone from 5:30 am and won't be back in town until 5 p.m. Then I have a boot camp I'm dedicated to. I told her maybe she can stay with me so I can see her in the evenings and check in with her during the day. Apparently that isn't good enough. Maybe I was a bit blunt over text, but I honestly don't understand what she wants me to do. My sister is 18 and I physically can't be home until 5 p.m. My parents called me and I said she can stay with me so I can see her in the evenings and she won't have to sleep alone. My mom said, "So she's just going to be alone?" And I said, "For most of the day, yes." And she said, "Wow. Okay." My dad was in the background yelling at me. I am a people pleaser and my parents put a lot of their responsibilities on me as a child. They are used to me bending over backwards for them and putting my sister's needs before mine. This is probably the first boundary I'll set. Anyway, this whole situation pissed me off and I said, "This is wild. Make it make sense," which made them more mad. I got off the phone and blocked them for the night because what I'm not going to do is let them stress me out. I came a long way with my mental health for this. Am I the asshole for not doing more and snapping at them? Is there something more I can do? ETA. She is not mentally or physically impaired in any way. She is a little immature, but fully self-sufficient and she generally doesn't make poor decisions. Not the asshole. It is important that you establish the simple fact that you are an adult with a job. If your parents believe that I or their 18-year-old child, is she still in high school, needs supervision, then they needed to book someone to provide that service before they made their travel plans. If your parents leave their child alone, that is on them. Why do your parents think your adult sister needs a babysitter for 3 days? Is your adult sister disabled in any way? Not the asshole. Unless your sister lacks the emotional maturity or has a history of dodgy acts, she's perfectly capable of doing whatever she wants. She doesn't even need to stay at your parents' house if she doesn't want to because she's legally an adult. The only reason she'd need someone around most of the time is if she can't take care of herself. Not the asshole. Your suggestion was generous and completely reasonable. And what you said to them was reasonable as well. It doesn't make sense. What are they worried about? Does she not know how to feed herself and take care of her basic needs? 18-year-olds are usually completely independent. They have a job or attend school. What does she do all day when your parents are not on a cruise? Are they with her all the time? Why does an adult need a babysitter? I'm so confused what they think you're supposed to do. Not work so you can entertain a grown-ass woman? Edit, not the asshole. Not the asshole. Unless there are issues with your sister that aren't mentioned in your post, an 18-year-old doesn't need a babysitter. May need to go low contact for a while. Am I the asshole for telling my cousin to stop holding a grudge over something I did when I was 7? I, 17F, have a cousin, Adrian, 30F, who's always been seen as the black sheep of our family. She's neurodivergent and has a more alternative style. Think bright hair, tattoos, and piercings. We were never close because of the age gap, but our families wanted to be close-knit. When Adrian turned 20, her family decided to visit us and celebrate her birthday together. Here's the problem. I was 7 at the time and, well, I threw a tantrum. I wanted to go to a different restaurant than the one Adrian had picked, and I made such a fuss that everyone ended up staying home. Later, when they got a cake for Adrian, I insisted on blowing out the candles myself, and my parents let me do it because they didn't want to deal with another meltdown and told Adrian she was too old to be making a fuss over her birthday anyway. I honestly don't remember much from that day, but apparently, it really hurt Adrian. She wasn't even allowed to celebrate with her friends like she wanted because she had to come on that family trip. Fast forward to now, and I'm applying to colleges, specifically in the state where Adrian lives. Over the years, I've come to realize just how toxic some of our family dynamics are, and I reached out to Adrian to apologize for what happened when I was a kid. I told her that I understand now, and I asked if she could help me navigate things as I applied to schools in her area. Adrian pretty much brushed me off and told me she's still upset about what happened on her 20th birthday. I tried to explain that I was just a kid at the time and that I'm sorry, but she's holding onto this grudge like it happened yesterday. I told her she needs to let it go, but she seems really stuck on it. My parents think she's being unreasonable, but I'm starting to wonder if I'm being insensitive to her feelings. So, am I the asshole for telling my cousin to stop holding onto a grudge over something I did when I was 7? Fast forward to now, and I'm applying to colleges, specifically in the state where Adrian lives. Over the years, I've come to realize just how toxic some of our family dynamics are, and I reached out to Adrian to apologize for what happened when I was a kid. I told her that I understand now, and I asked if she could help me navigate things as I applied to schools in her area. Info: if you hadn't wanted her help, would you have contacted her just to apologize? If you'd come to realize, over the years, how bad it was, why not apologize sooner? Why wait until you needed something from her? You have to admit, the timing is all sorts of sus. I'd have a hard time believing you were sincere too. You are the asshole because it sounds like you didn't apologize until you needed her help, and when she told you she's still upset you shrugged that off and you expect her to just get over it. You don't know how deep that wound from back then runs for her. It's not all your fault, you just played a part in it, but she's entitled to her feelings and you don't get to belittle them. You are the asshole. You waited 10 years to reach out and you only apologized because you wanted favors from her. YTA. You aren't sorry you want help. That's why you apologized in the same convo you asked for help in. You aren't owed help either way. She's not the asshole for holding a grudge against someone who only apologized because they wanted something. Info: is it possible that your cousin only thinks you're apologizing because you need her help? Is that the main reason you are apologizing? You are the asshole. Apologizing purely for the sake of getting something out of the person who was wronged is not a genuine apology in the slightest. Telling her how she should or shouldn't feel is super dismissive and quite frankly pretty toxic on your part. Your choices and actions at 7 were not developmentally appropriate or acceptable. Maybe for a 2-year-old, sure, but at 7 kids know better, and that was some next level entitlement. In fact, your entitlement in regard to expecting help from someone who isn't close to you because of how you and your family treated them shows us you still haven't grown up and rather have just grown into your parents. Am I the asshole for not consenting to my husband's twin brother moving in with us? My husband and I got married less than a year ago. For most of our relationship, one of our biggest issues and cause of arguments has been his family. My husband has a large family, and including half-siblings, he's one of 12 children. This includes his twin brother, Sam, who has autism. One of his younger brothers also has autism but is higher functioning. Previously, before we married, one of my husband's brothers moved in with us for 8 months. I knew going into it that it was going to be temporary and therefore okayed it. However, I made clear then that his family member staying with us wasn't really ideal for me. Both of my husband's autistic brothers have spent most of their lives living with their grandpa. However, back in 2018 they decided it was no longer appropriate for Sam to live with their grandpa due to his higher care needs. Sam moved in with their oldest sister and has lived there ever since. Sam is mostly non-verbal, and although he has some independent skills, he needs help with everyday tasks and shouldn't really be left home alone for more than an hour. My SIL's youngest child left home early last year and she's now planning to move in with her eldest son and her grandkids. She can only do this if she can find a new home for Sam. Recently, my husband came to me and told me he wanted Sam to move in with us. He argued we have the space, and he has the time to look after Sam. He thinks as Sam's twin it's his duty to be the one to take Sam in. He also said their sister is still going to be spending a lot of time with Sam. I feel bad, but I told him I didn't want Sam to live with us. This would be a long-term living arrangement, not temporary like his other brother. I told him he should have told me before marriage that he would be wanting his brother to live with us. I feel because he didn't, it's my right to say no now. This is a big change that will affect the rest of the foreseeable future and our future plans of starting a family. Yesterday, my husband and I were at my SIL's home discussing Sam's future, and I told her I didn't want Sam to move in with us. I suggested to her if she stayed in-house to look after Sam, my husband and I can try to be a bigger help to her. She became annoyed with me after that and complained she's been looking after her younger siblings since kindergarten, became a teen mom and raised 7 kids of her own, and she can finally now have the time to do what she wants. I expressed my opinion that she was being cold to Sam, who is incredibly attached to her. I could see him getting very depressed living away from her. She got mad at me after that. Although my husband said he would only take Sam in with my consent, I can tell he's going to hold it against me if I don't. Am I being the asshole? I think they're being very short-sighted about Sam's future, and all the siblings have flat out refused him going into a home. Not the asshole. But only for the question you asked. He should have let you know earlier in the relationship if he had plans for his brother to move in. Maybe you should have asked him sooner too. However, YTA for trying to manipulate and guilt-trip the sister into continuing to be the main caregiver. You are the asshole for how you threw a guilt trip on someone who has been parentified and had their time and well-being extracted from them for damn near their whole life. That was a dick move. Not the asshole for standing your own ground with your husband. Edit. Though I do think it was lacking in foresight and pragmatism on your part to marry someone with a disabled twin thinking that wouldn't impact your life. Should have had that discussion. Info. Where are your husband's parents, aka Sam's parents, in all of this? Why wouldn't they be housing, caring for Sam now that grandpa cannot take care of them? Everyone sucks here you for telling that poor woman who just wants an independent life after decades of caring for others she's being cold. Your husband for trying to force this on you. Sam needs to be in a group home. Or you need to leave your husband. Divorce him now, before you have kids with him. You are the asshole not because you are unwilling to take care of Sam but because you did a really great job of emotional blackmail on the one who has been Sam's caregiver. You don't think she realizes what this will do to Sam not being with her after so long. And your only solution is to leave the burden to one family member and try to be a bigger help. Try pathetic. You did marry into this family, correct? Am I the asshole for snapping at a man because he touched me? I, 18F, work as a hostess at Texas Roadhouse. During training I was bringing 2 older men to their table and one of them put his hand on my lower back as we were walking. I turned around and told him not to touch me and he got a little upset but stopped touching me. It made me pretty uncomfortable, so I told my mom and she said that I should have spoke to him in a nicer tone. I told him no pretty sternly. I also told my dad and my mom's wife and they both said I was right for speaking up. I trust my mom with any advice, so now I am starting to think that I should have kept my customer service act on and just have dropped it when it happened. AITA? Also, I absolutely do not mean to bash my mom. I just don't know what to think because I know there's a chance something like this might happen again. Edit. Thank you all so much for all of the advice, I really appreciate it. Please stop telling me that if I put up with it I'll make more tips, that's so strange. Grin. Not the asshole. Random men should not be touching you, and he almost certainly wouldn't have done that if you were a man. You don't owe someone politeness when they're not respecting you. Unfortunately, a lot of women were raised to be polite no matter what. No doubt your mom was one of them. Thankfully, many women are breaking away from that. If someone touches you and you don't want them to, there is nothing wrong with firmly telling them not to. You did nothing wrong. Not the asshole. A stranger touched you without your consent. You sternly told him no, because you were shocked, and because a stranger touched you without your consent. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. We don't do polite for the sake of the person violating our personal space anymore. He's old enough to know to keep his hands to himself. Old enough to hear a stern no. Old enough to know better. If he needed assistance walking, he should have said something. Not the asshole. People need to stop touching other people they hardly don't know in general. I work as a bartender and one of my customers is one of the backside slapping, bro, types, and when he got me I gave him a warning then booted his keister permanently when he did it again. So to clarify, you were touched without consent. Not the asshole.